Hey guys, welcome to today's podcast with myself Ian and I'm joined by Cian. The idea behind this podcast, as we said, is just to speak about the last year, how crazy it has been for us individually, for us as a company, and just the impact it's having on people's social, physical and mental health. And we do hope that you just take something from, I suppose, knowing that we're struggling, we're finding it hard, and knowing that, you know, it has been a tough year for everybody, but there are things we still can do to try and help us to feel better.
Absolutely. So, hey guys, and the first thing we're going to talk about today are the rolling lockdowns and the impact it's having on us, on ATP, but also our clients who we still have a very high level of communication with throughout the last 10 months since it all kicked off.
10 months, Jesus, you said that. But I suppose it's not something that we've actually covered in a topic, in depth. And we've kind of talked about doing this podcast for a while, but we have been keeping busy. But it is about starting from last year, and I think to relive, I think back in March last year, nobody could have predicted to be where we are right now. And when you go back to March last year, when the first lockdown hit, I think a big thing I've taken anyway is that the three lockdowns for me have been three very different lockdowns. I think initially, we spoke with this earlier before we came on, lockdown one for me was very much about escapism. It was like, I'm going to do as much as I can to not think about what the hell is going on, because I don't think I was in that space. I can remember when the announcement was made, I was actually in your house. It was supposed to be the night of my stag. And we went for a swim down the beach. Went back to Cian and Ian for a couple of drinks, and next thing, good old Leo came on and announced it, and we were like, "What the fuck?"
Yeah, it escalated pretty quickly, because I suppose even just going before that, we were very much so just caught up in going 100 miles an hour, and how this place has just had gotten busier and busier and busier, and we hadn't really kind of taken notice of that increase in pace and workload. We were just in it, and when that happened, it just all came crashing down.
Yeah, it just became, what's mad now that you say it, it just became our normal, and you just adapted your lifestyle, and it was fantastic. Don't get me wrong, the business was doing really well. ATP was hopping. We built a great community. Anyone who trained in here knew what it was about. We had to think now, having 3 trainers, 6 clients at a time inside in the gym, having 18, 20 people in our studio classes, that was our normal. Which, to think about that now is
can't even kind of foresee when we'll have people back in the classes again.
It's mad to think how it's been flipped on its head, and I think it really was. It's that was a hard time to take, because there were so many unknowns at that time. We just didn't know. There wasn't, at least lockdown 2 and lockdown 3, we kind of knew about what to expect. Whereas I think for everybody, lockdown 1, we thought it was probably going to be maybe one lockdown, and that's it.
And it was, I suppose, adapting then. It took maybe a few weeks, but we pretty much immediately just starting to adapt the business and shift things online and change the way we did things in terms of our presence on social media, getting the classes and the PTs online. And with each lockdown, we've seen a gradual increase in the number of people willing to give it a go.
Yeah.
And then thankfully, once they give the online side of things a go, they are enjoying it and sticking with it.
Yeah, that tends to be the case. It's like everything, I suppose. Something new, people are always afraid of.
Yeah.
But we have adapted massively as humans. We're made to adapt. And I think we've had to. But like that lockdown 1, even hate the word lockdown, but lockdown 1 there was a massive fear factor there, I think, initially, which I think now is actually back in lockdown 3, that people are fearful of what's going on and what might happen. But I said, for me, it really was, what can I do to keep myself busy? And people don't know, most people will know about 28 to Great now, that initially was called the Blueprint, which was an idea, well before lockdowns. And we were like, okay, gym is closed, we don't know when it's going to reopen again. Let's just bury our head in this. Let's create this, which we managed to do, which is great. But the other side then really was for me, and I look back now realising it was full escapism, which was okay, that's how I dealt with it, but it was like, you know, what can I do to keep myself occupied? So like everybody else in Ireland, it was like, you know, DIY, and it was like, I'm going to absolutely upturn my back garden and get it done, patio, shed, the whole lot, which is great to have done now, but it was me just keeping myself really busy. And the other side of it, I said, like, you know, I said this to Cian beforehand, like, you know, I do realise now looking back now, I fucking drank quite heavily as well in lockdown one, like, you know, I really...
You know, a lot of us did, and people probably see us, and we get comments a lot, and even, you know, they're coming in when you're asking the questions about today's podcast, where people have this maybe perception that we're always training, we're always healthy. That's not the case.
Not the case at all. No, definitely. I went through a period there, and it was like, you know, honestly, Thursday to Sunday was like, yeah, we're in lockdown. I'm just going to have a few glasses of wine. I'm going to have, if anyone who follows me knows, like, you know, I've nailed the how to make the mojitos, especially in the summer there. It was like, yeah, it's the summer, sun is shining, getting mojitos going. Lisa was good, the espresso martinis. It was a lot of drinking, like it really was. And like, as much as it was a bit of crack, I look back now and I realise, like, you know, for being in a bad space mentally in my head, like alcohol just does not help that situation at all, like,
Definitely,
you know.
Not, and it's important for people to realise as well that like alcohol is a depressant. So, like, you know, while it's like a great thing to turn to, sometimes it can end up having a very negative effect on us if we overdo it.
I definitely found, like, you know, on a Monday or Tuesday it took me to get going. I was definitely less positive on those days after, you know, having drinks at the weekend and stuff like that. And like for lockdown 2, as I said, like, you know, I was still kind of drinking a bit more, definitely less than lockdown 1. I'm on my high horse now in lockdown 3 because I haven't been drinking. But like, what I can say is that, like, I do feel, even though it's such a shit situation, I'm able to, you know, I'm in a better mindset most of the time than when I was for the other 2, even though this time around actually feels harder than the other 2, like, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I suppose if you're waking up and you're a bit ropey, you're not feeling great, it can take that little bit extra to kind of like drag yourself out of those kind of like negative thoughts.
Yeah.
And those kind of feelings. So like, whilst there's nothing wrong with having a few drinks, it's probably not a great time to be drinking a lot at the moment. Like,
if you feel like you are like really struggling, like the majority of people are, as much as that, you know, those couple of glasses of wine on a Tuesday or Wednesday, you might feel like they're helping you relax, you know, in the long run it's probably not. So maybe take a look at that and just, yes, it can be a bit of escapism again, like, you know, just to turn to some drink and forget about things, which I think is needed at a certain extent, but just be aware of what you are consuming. Are you over consuming? Are you completely, you know, are you facing the same problems just later on in the week or the day because you're blanking them out for this certain period of time?
Yeah, and then it's having that like knock-on impact on your sleep and your energy levels. That's then where things can like spiral. Yeah, so it's just about being conscious of it and keeping an eye on it.
Yeah, and that's like, we're not lecturing anybody about not drinking.
Definitely
like,
not.
we're not
big fans of
yes, we're not in that position at all. But it is just it is that awareness. I said from myself, realising from the previous ones that I do feel a little bit better.
That's part of that transitional period though as well, from like lockdown 1 to lockdown 3. It's like, you know, the changes that have occurred each time. So like lockdown 1 was, you know, just putting the head down, and as you said, like, there was that escapism, but, you know, building the program, building the 28, putting all our time and effort into that because we both need to be busy.
Yeah.
It was like just this thing that we could concentrate on. I feel just talking to a lot of people, unfortunately they haven't yet found what it is, you know, they can keep themselves busy with, and that's then having a very negative impact on them, especially if, you know, they're working from home and everything is happening at home at the moment. They maybe aren't like taking a break throughout the day, so they're not getting up and getting fresh air. There's no, you know, going home at 5 o'clock time anymore, because like you might as well just keep working if the emails are coming in. That's having a very negative impact on people at the moment.
I remember in between lockdowns when we actually happened to be open for the few weeks each time, talking to clients who majority of them were, you know, working from home. Rarely were, you know, clocking off when they might have if they were in the office. It was like answering emails or just doing this one thing at 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock in the evening. And like, trust me, we have our own business. Like, you know, I find it hard sometimes to come off the phone or answer a question. But what's happening there is like you're not separating work from home any bit. It just becomes combined, which I've no doubt some people work from home. And this is, I think, something that we can kind of touch on the whole way through. And I said to you again beforehand was like, it's been very different for every single person. And you know, you've actually had some people who have been like, oh, I like working from home. This, oh, it's grand, suits me. You know, oh, look, yes, it's a dose. I don't get to see my friends or whatever, but you know, it's grand. And you have people who are working from home and they're on the edge, like, you know, they're finding it hard to cope. They've no social interaction, no physical face-to-face contact with people for periods of time. Like, I think we're very, use the word selfish, and I talk about myself as well. Like, you know, you do think of yourself first, as much as people, like, you know, unless you're probably a mother or something, like, you know, but I'm saying, like, you do think about, like, yourself, and then you start thinking about others most of the time. And a lot of people who are finding the lockdowns, yes, hard, but say, okay, and they're like, oh, this is grand, you know, it's an inconvenience. We forget about people who are like really, really struggling, and that's from me talking to clients and talking to family members as well, especially this lockdown. And I'm like, they're really finding it hard that you're almost becoming worried about those people.
Yeah, I think it is. You know, obviously every lockdown has been really hard, but like the sense that we're definitely getting off, the majority of people anyway, is that this one does seem to be a lot worse. There is a lot more anxiety. There is a lot more stress. And you do, as you say, like, you know, deal with people on like both sides of the spectrum. I've genuinely heard people, you know, say to me on the phone, it's like, oh yeah, I don't mind COVID at all. I don't really like people anyway. Yeah. Like that might be fine, but then you have people who are massively, as you said, like suffering from loneliness, suffering from anxiety, and not coping well at all. So just to be mindful that, you know, even though your circumstances might be okay and you're doing okay, there are a lot of people who aren't.
Yeah, and like a big thing I've had this conversation with lots of clients. I've had it with Lisa. I think I've had it with you as well. But it's been like a big thing we do is that, you know, we feel gratitude and grateful for things and for how lucky we might be when we look at somebody else who is worse off. That's basically how it kind of works. Like when you're talking about being grateful, you're like, I'm really happy that I have a house, because you're thinking you might not have a house, you know, these kind of things. But like, when it comes to being grateful and, you know, having that gratitude, it's important that it shouldn't be at the expense of someone else. You know what I mean? You shouldn't look at someone else and be like, oh, I could be in their position. Because I had this conversation with a friend the other day on the phone. He was just like, Ian, like, we're lucky, like, we're both working, you know, we're doing okay. Your gym has been closed, you've moved your wedding again, like, you know, all of these things. And it's like, it wasn't feeling sorry for me, but it was just like, you know, he was looking at me going, geez, he's really lucky. And what I said to him was, Alan, that is his name. I was like, Alan, to be honest, I was like, how you're feeling, the stresses you're feeling about the lockdowns, about where you're at right now, they're the exact same feelings I'm feeling. You know what I mean? And that's where we get caught up. We think like, I shouldn't be feeling this way because that person has it way worse than me. Yeah. But like how you're feeling, so when you're upset, you're annoyed, you're frustrated at the lockdowns, at the current situation, don't try and think, I shouldn't be feeling that way because I'm lucky. You know, like a client said to me the other day, she's like, yeah, I'm lucky, I'm working, I know I shouldn't be feeling this way. And straight away I was like, no, feel that way. And it's important for people to understand, like, that you feel whatever way you're feeling. Don't think you can't feel a certain way because you're not as worse off as somebody else. Like I said, when you're sad, it's the same as someone else being sad. Do you know what I mean? Whatever your situation of being sad is, that's it. Like, you know, and that's what people have to understand about emotions. If you're angry, the way you feel when you're angry is the way someone else feels who might be worse off than you or better off than you. They feel the same anger. You know what I mean? And that's what people don't understand. It's like, feel however you're going to feel and stop trying to...
Your emotions are your own.
Yeah. Massive. And I think where people will just kind of feel like they're almost guilty for feeling a certain way when they think people are worse than them, you know, and that shouldn't be the case.
Well, like, and that then can add that spiral effect where it's you know, leading to, for, you know, people to feel even worse. So yes, you might be grateful that you're, you know, working from home and you have a job, but it's still okay to like feel lonely if you're there by yourself. Yeah. And you're not around any family and friends. Yeah. You don't have to feel bad for feeling that way. Yeah. Like I suppose we've been hearing a lot of that, where it's great that people feel grateful for certain things, but it's okay to be sad too.
Yeah, 100%. And like I have those days, and you have those days where, like, you know, they're just shit days, you know. And what's crazy, like, I use this term a lot in my emails, like the roller coaster of emotions. And with it, like, people have to understand it really is that. There's days where the situation hasn't actually changed. I've had this conversation with you. It's like nothing's changed since yesterday, but I feel way better. And there's like days where like nothing's changed since yesterday when I felt great, and now I feel pretty shitty. But that's your mind going off, you know, trying to create scenarios, and that's where the most anxiety arises.
It's the thought process, and again, like, you have that awareness to pull yourself back in and stop your mind from spiraling. Because I suppose there's people that we've spoken to that might not have that awareness and can't prevent that from happening.
Yeah, and it is quite hard. That's where stress comes from. Like, you know, people talk about stress and anxiety a lot, and with stress and anxiety, I know from myself, from, you know, getting those feelings, the real time I become stressed and I become really anxious about things is when I'm either thinking about the future or I'm thinking about the past. I'm thinking about what has happened. I know I wish we could be back there, and I'm getting sad and upset. Or else I'm thinking what's ahead, and I can't see what the future lies ahead, and that causes me stress and causes me to get anxious.
100 different scenarios that haven't actually happened.
Yeah, like hypotheticals that you end up creating a leg start at 90% of the time never play out. You know, and I'm not saying of course you're going to do that. Your brain, your chimp brain is made to do that. Like, you know, your emotional brain is made to do those things. But if you can't create awareness of, like, okay, I'm gone crazy here now, and, you know, I'm heading down this path of thinking of all these things that might happen, you know, if this happens and this happens, like, you're creating those scenarios, but pulling yourself back to right now.
And that's what we're asking people to do. Is like when your mind does start spiraling like that, try to make yourself aware of that so that you can kind of pull yourself back into reality.
Yeah, it really is stopping and becoming, like, I'm not saying everyone has to become a meditation person, but it's become, you know, present in the moment and being like, okay, I'm here right now. What can I control? What can I focus on over the next? I think bringing things back to short term. So we talk about, you know, long term goals, and they're great to have, but, like, realistically, you can't think that long term right now. So maybe looking at bringing your goals and back to weeks, like, you know, what do I want to achieve by next week? What do I want to achieve in the next 2 or 3 days? You know, taking that approach.
There's a huge amount of things outside our control and everyone else's control at the moment, but there are still plenty of aspects of our life that we can control and that will make us feel better, such as our food or nutrition, our water intake, our sleep, getting enough good quality sleep. And then if you're struggling with your sleep, there are things you can do and steps you can do, like journaling, like, you know, practicing deep breathing, meditation, which you'll talk about in a while. But there's always something that you can do.
Yeah, I think there is, and I think people are right at the moment to play the victim mentality. You know, I've had days where Lisa's like, to be fair, Lisa's good at pulling me out of a level, like, you know, feeling very sorry for myself, like, you know, poor me, and they are hard days to have. But it's up to you, and it's up to me to pull myself out of it eventually. You know, no one else can actually do that for you, and it's about, okay, what can I do? Okay, if I have an injury in my shoulder or whatever, it's like, you know, I either say to myself, I can't train at all, or I can figure out what I can do. If I am struggling with sleep, it's like, I can't sleep, and you become this person who I can't sleep. But instead of looking, okay, what can I do to try and improve my sleep? Whereas we kind of just stop short of, I can't do this, or this doesn't work for me. And it's like, okay, that's one thing, one aspect. It's like, find the other things. Like, our brains are actually, like, wired to think negatively first. So we have to try and combat that with, all right, there's my negative thought. Okay, but what can I do? What can I focus on? Like, you know, a big thing there, feedback from people has been, right now, lack of time, stressed. You know, we understand we don't have kids, but, like, my sister has 3 kids. You know, she's working from home. The challenges are ridiculous, and I was going to use the word, but not unprecedented. I hate that word because it's been overused in the last year. But, like, it's crazy of, like, the scenario that people are in right now. And if you feel like, you know, trying to train, like saying, I got to get back to training the way I was before, which was 3 or 4 or 5 times a week, or I got to get back into my nutrition when I was trying to drop body fat, you know. If you're in that space and you feel that that's going to help you and that's going to really, you know, work for you right now, go for it, 100%. But don't put yourself under that pressure If you're already feeling stressed, if you feel like you have no time, again, scale it back. What one thing can I do for myself that's going to help me to feel better right now? We always pick this grandeur picture of the big thing that we need to do and all of these things we need to do to get that. Instead of just thinking about ourselves once and be like, okay, what one thing can I do in a week that's going to help me feel better? If that's one 20-minute workout, 30-minute workout, if it's one walk or run, if it's you deciding you're going to take half an hour to read a book or take a bath, like you have to start taking time back for yourself, as hard as that is, but there is time there to do it, and it's about thinking of one thing versus all the things.
And there definitely is this perception that, especially people, they might have been making time to go to classes and doing PTs before, and they might think that like it needs to be on that level again, so they might need to be putting 40-45 minutes into their workout, but they don't have that time, so then as a result they end up doing nothing, whereas 5 or 10 minutes is going to be better than doing nothing. Doing something small will always be better than doing nothing. Yeah. And even from a mental health point of view and how it's going to make you feel, you're going to gain a lot more from that than just choosing to not do anything at all. Yeah.
And that can, I would say that doesn't have to be a 10-minute workout, even though it's been proven that like short bursts of exercise can be great for reducing stress and stuff, so even if it is a 5 or 10 minutes kind of HIIT type workout. But if that 10 minutes is you just going away for a walk, if it's 10 minutes of you reading a book, that can be beneficial to you. But it's really important to understand, I've used this term before with a client, like the power of one. So it's like, can you do one push-up? Can you walk outside for 1 minute? If you can say yes to those, yes I can do one push-up, yes I can go for a walk for 1 minute. What tends to happen is you'll do more than one push-up. What tends to happen is you'll realise you're walking for a minute, so I'll do another small bit. And that's where you need to start. Think of the one thing that you can do that'll only take a couple of minutes. Do that. I said if it's deep breathing, can I take deep breaths for 1 minute, 60 seconds? This again is going back to what you can do. And if you can recognise what you can do, it becomes a choice of, okay, I know I can do this, am I going to do it is the next thing, the barrier you have to pass. And then if you realise that by choosing yes, it's going to help you, it's going to benefit you, that's what's going to get you moving. But instead of, I said, thinking of, I have to do 10,000 steps, it's like, can I just go out and just do a few steps?
Yeah, and I think it's like a huge difference between lockdown 1 and lockdown 3 is thankfully we had a pretty decent summer weather-wise, where it's a dark, cold, wet January, and it is very discouraging to get out into it, and it's a lot harder. And even when it's darker, just it's not inviting to get out, but it definitely has a big impact on your mood as well. But the sunshine is like fantastic for encouraging you to get out and get some fresh air, whereas it's not exactly like great weather for it at the moment.
Yeah, I know.
Whereas just remembering that, like, even if you get out for 10 minutes, you're going to feel better after.
Yeah, and let's be honest about it. It's been brutal. Like, it really has been brutal. As like, from our own personal point of view, like, I said, ATP has been closed 9 months.
So we'll actually be closed 8 out of 12 months.
8 out of 12 months.
Out of 12 months.
Well, by the end of March, if that's when we reopen, which is just insane. Like, it's insane. And we know there's many businesses out there who are going through the same thing. One of the hardest parts of being closed for me has been, like, not being able to see when that reopening will happen. I said when we reopened both times, it was great, to be reopened, even under the restrictions that we were. But it's like, when will we get back to any sense of normal or new normal or whatever? And not knowing that is a big frustration. I do feel like the company is good. Like, we are ready to get rocking whenever we can, but it is really been a frustration for us, and I know for thousands of other companies, like, not knowing what's ahead. And there's been days where I have been jumping into the future and creating those scenarios, but realistically we can't think ahead. Like, we literally have to get, like Micheál Martin used a comment the other day which annoyed me at the time, but it's a decent way of thinking for us anyway. I wouldn't agree with him saying he should only be thinking that way, but there was a reporter asked him about what's any positives you can give or any kind of optimism you can give ahead, like, past the 5th of March and things reopening. And he said, the only horizon I'm looking at is the 5th of March. I'm not looking at any other horizons after that. We have to get 5th of March, and that's the only horizon to look at. And I don't believe he should be taking that view, which I don't think he actually is, but I'm saying, like, for us, we probably should be taking that shorter term view of that's our horizon.
It's just very hard because we've always been thinking long term and in a grander scale. Like from day one, of opening here, we were thinking about how we were going to get the place full, and then from early days, we were thinking about the future in terms of like years. So it's very hard to bring that back in terms of days and weeks.
Yeah, next week, and it is brutal, and I think, but that same aspect goes for, I think, us as a people, Irish people, probably people in general, want to look forward to something. It's what we're made to do. Why do we book? Why is January the busiest month for bookings for holidays every year, bar this year? It's because, okay, New Year, I want to look forward to something in the summer or whatever. We don't have that. You can't book the holiday, and usually the motivation we know ourselves comes from a holiday. The motivation to get fitter and whatever comes from a holiday being booked or whatever. So it's about finding a new motivation, finding a new reason, a more real reason, I suppose. We talked about this before, like your real why. Like, why do you want to get fitter? Why do you want to lose weight? What does it really mean for you to do that? And if you figure that out and have ask yourself some questions around that area, then maybe you will find a real important why, and that might get you moving.
Yeah, because I suppose at the moment, superficial goals just aren't going to cut it. They're not going to last very long. If you have, so the obvious example is a weight loss goal, and you don't have a real why under especially the current circumstances, you're not going to adhere to your plan for very long before you derail and then have that negative consequences of failing to reach your goal. So it's a good time to sit down and find a real why if you are making some goals.
I've used the reference all the time of Ryan Gosling, it's like when he's there shouting at her, what do you want? You have to figure out what do you want and why you want it. And if that's not weight loss, if that's not training a couple of times a week, that's okay. That's the thing. People have this thing of, I should be wanting to lose weight, or should be wanting to exercise regularly. If you hate it, if the idea of it, you hate it, don't go down that route, because you're only setting yourself up for failure. Now, granted, anybody I know who's successfully lost weight or took up training regularly, they have transformed their lives physically and mentally. They do feel better for it. But it's about knowing, what you're going to focus on now over the next, let's call it 5-6 weeks, and how are you going to feel when you start implementing these one or two things. And again, people massively underestimate the power of doing a little bit. It's like, if I can't do it all, as you said, I'm not going to do anything at all. Whereas just once or twice a week doing some exercise, maybe once or twice a week deciding to improve your nutrition on those days. If you're not sleeping well, it genuinely is about asking yourself why I'm not sleeping well, instead of just being, I'm not sleeping well, and trying to figure that out. When it comes to your stress levels, it's like, what's causing my stress? I done this the other night. I go to back garden to let Chance out before he goes to bed. Chance is my dog, if you don't know who he is. And if it's a clear night in Watergassill there, the stars are out, and it's actually really brings me back to whoa, we're really small. In the grand scheme of things, as people, we're really small. And I was there the other night and I was stressed enough, and I was just like, right, what's my problem here? Why am I stressed? Why am I feeling this way? And people don't ask themselves those questions, And I think by doing that, and I realised then, what I was thinking, what my problems were, I was like, okay, they can be resolved. I can work on these. But if I just kept feeling the way I was feeling without asking myself those questions, then it's just going to build up inside you, and that building up of stress is just like something ready to explode.
People don't, as you say, they don't ask themselves why it is they're stressed. They don't figure it out, and they just let that stress accumulate. And obviously, everyone's circumstances is different, but with the goal setting, there's probably you know, some goals that aren't that suitable for a lot of people right now. It's not a great time to have like a weight loss goal, for example, especially if you're struggling with everything else that's going on. You're just going to be adding to those stress levels.
Yeah.
As you said, you know, whilst it might not be a great time to, you know, try to achieve a goal like that, there's nothing stopping you from, you know, putting habits in place to help you for when it is a better time.
Yeah.
So like, you know, learning a little bit more about nutrition, learning a little bit more about stress and how to manage it, sleep hygiene. These are all, you know, things that, again, 5 to 10 minutes a day will put you into a much better position and give you a lot higher chance of success when the time does come.
Yeah, and I do know, like, there has been a flip side of it, whereas people have used their escapism as training, and they've gone flat out, and I've seen people come back from lockdowns. Honestly, I think, like, the 2 different lockdowns, from the lockdowns, I've seen people come back with, you know, gained, and I hate using, like, the COVID stone. It's a stone. It's not a COVID stone, it's a stone. But people came back with, you know, weight gain. But I see people walk in the door when we had our doors opened, and I was like, whoa, what the hell happened to you? It was like, yeah, I just got my shit together. You know, I went down that route of just like not spoiling, watching my nutrition. And like, there's reasons that happened for that person, and there's reasons the other person, you know, put on weight. None is really right or wrong. It's just they were at the right space at that right time, and it's recognising that.
The social aspect was
huge.
The occasion or the equation. So people who train hard Monday to Friday and are on point with their food or nutrition Monday to Friday, and then just like go off the rails Saturday and Sunday, that was kind of pulled from them.
Yeah. So like
3 or 4 months.
we know the calories that are consumed in that Friday to Sunday, like, you know, has been a big factor why people have struggled to lose weight. I've used the term social butterfly with clients before, where you've, like, you know, loads of group of friends, so you're just always out. And yes, we want to get back to that, but again, like, you know, what it's done is opened people's eyes to, okay, it's not because I wasn't training hard enough. It's not because I wasn't watching my food. It is because when it came to Friday afternoon, I just forget about it and went for a free-for-all of drinking and eating without watching my nutrition or whatever. And that's what's been the issue, because now that that's not available to me, I've been able to successfully lose weight.
And there's a lot of people who fall into that category. So from like a health point of view, a physical health point of view, they're better off for it. Yeah,
and like there's things where, like, you know, as hard as it might be, we'll touch them on near the end there. Like, you know, we asked people kind of what positives they take from COVID. There has been positives for us as much as there's been negatives. No, I will for me anyway. I definitely say there's more negatives than positives. But, like, you know, there is areas that people, when we look back on, hopefully in a couple of years' time, and be like, Jesus, remember that COVID? That was mental. We do hope that comes, and we think it will. But, like, a big thing that people have spoke about, and it's been prevalent in all of the lockdowns, is mental health. That's why we're here. That's why we're talking about it. Like, you know, and just trying to turn mental health out there. Like, you know, it's like, what is mental health? And mental health is, you know, how you speak to yourself. Mental health is the conversations you have with yourself on a day-to-day basis. You speak to nobody more than you do yourself. And those conversations need to be analysed and asking yourself, would I speak how I'm speaking to myself to a friend that's going through the same situation? And the answer is always going to be no. Like, you're as hard on yourself as you will be on anybody else.
The relationship you have with yourself is the most important relationship.
Massive.
Like, and people maybe don't value that relationship.
Yeah. Like, if you're, and I know people, like, who are, like, have really been, even, you know, when you're having chats inside here with clients, like that negative self-talk, that not willing to give themselves a pat in the back for a well done. Like, we're very slow to do that, but if your friend achieved whatever you achieved, or if your friend done it, you'd be like, oh, you're fucking amazing.
Or it's that automatic follow-up with a negative. It's like, I've done this positive thing.
But. Yeah, that but. It's like, just stop talking, just stop it at the but. Like, you know, like, just leave it there.
People won't do that for themselves.
Yeah.
But they'll point it out.
Like, another huge aspect you touched on, like you were saying, was, like, you know, the perception of the world around you.
Yeah, so like, everyone has a different perception of what's going on, and like, we've seen it especially now. You know, I don't know, do some people just, like, not watch the news or follow what's going on? But I guess like some people, you wonder, do they even know that like COVID is a thing, like
Yeah.
it's actually happening, and then other people, it's just affecting their lives so much.
Yeah.
And it's causing like massive anxiety, stress, loneliness. And so a bit of a disclaimer here, especially when we're talking about mental health, is like we don't have any qualifications in mental health or degrees, but like we do have a lot of experience talking to people and clients who have these things going on.
Yeah, like as in when it comes to mental health issues, there's different grades of mental health issues. Like where we're talking is like on this kind of suffering from anxiety, suffering from stress, like and how that spiral effect, which you've heard us mention quite a lot now, can lead down. It's the power to be able to stop that spiral, because that spiral can work the other way as well, in a positive way if you can get it going. But like there's an analogy I've never used. I wrote it down once. Good few years ago when I classed myself as first becoming aware of getting into mindset and everything like that. I was on Inchydonny Beach. I think it's fitting for now because we was talking about there. It's like we're the size of a grain of sand. Like in the grand scheme of things, me as an individual, I'm about the size of a grain of sand when you think of the universe, everything else, forever, probably smaller than that. But like within that grain of sand, I've created an entire world. Like, what I mean? So my world is everybody that's around me that I know, that I sort of touch base with, like the clients, family, friends. So like even though in the grand scheme of things I'm as small as a grain of sand, within that grain of sand there's an entire world of feelings, of emotions, like and I think that's very important to note. Like yes, we are small in the grand scheme of things, but your own individual world, like there's people out there who I've never met in my entire life, and they go about living their lives and I never will meet them again. Like so it's about looking at your own grain of sand, your own world, and kind of going, okay, how can I positively impact myself and those people around me within this grain of sand, like
because like the way you see the world will be different to how I see it.
Massively.
And will be very different than to how a lot of other people see it.
Yeah, exactly. So that's why when it comes to advice, it's very hard, and this is, we're talking about our TikToks there, it's getting loads of comments from people all over the world, which is great, but like you really realise that people are just living different, completely in different worlds, like in different grains of sand, completely, like because like trying to give advice, even regards stuff we're talking about here, but especially when it comes to weight loss, nutrition, unfortunately there's no here, this is the answer that you're looking for, and that's it.
Because there's so much misinformation out there. There's so many myths out there, and unfortunately, these are rabbit holes people have been led down. So it's a lot harder then to educate. Yeah, like I don't know where the term silver bullet came from, but it's created absolute havoc for everybody, because everybody's looking for that silver bullet, which you talk about now about vaccines and for COVID. But when it comes to nutrition, it's like, here, do this one thing, it's going to solve your weight loss problems. It's like, it won't. It's unfortunately a multi-factorial approach you have to take to everything, and it's only going to start with you. It's going to be you figuring out, okay, how have I gotten to this situation? Because at the end of the day, we have choices to make. There's different scenarios that make it really hard for some people, in their lives, but everything we do is a yes or no choice. Everything. And I firmly believe that, so you're making a decision. When you say yes to something, you're saying no to something else all of the time. And that's important. So let's just use a weight loss, for example. When you say yes to, I'm going to eat well for the next 6 weeks or whatever, you're saying no to getting takeaways, drinking fizzy drinks, whatever. If I say yes to meeting up with you at a certain time, then I'm saying no to maybe doing some work that needs to get done, or no to meeting somebody else. There's always a yes, no. So it's important to look at the choices you're making, why you're making those choices, and are they in line with whatever your goal is like. Yeah, so, and again, going back to if your goal is important enough to you, you'll do what it takes to achieve that goal. Yeah. And that's then when adherence is massively affected, because people will say, no, I really do want it, but then they're not willing to do what it takes to achieve it. And it goes back to, I said this before, and one of the talks I gave was to look back at the things you have achieved, the sacrifices you made to achieve those, you done whatever it took. You did, whatever it took, you got there, you done it, because it was super, super important. So find a goal that does that for you again, and that's where
that's where your reason for getting going is going to be like.
Again, it does not have to be weight loss or fitness orientated. It just doesn't.
Yeah. If whatever you are passionate about, whatever gets you the fire in your belly, like, you know, it's like for me it really is like, you know, creating the monster of like 28 degrees to expand and to be a massive project going to educate, you know, thousands of people, and that gives me excitement massively. You know,
so we know that because we've talked about, like, you know, what's wrong and people like looking for the silver bullet, but to like an extent, like the fitness industry has created that. You know, people have it in their mind that it's like, you know, it's this one food plan, it's this one exercise program that's going to fix all of my problems and make me look and feel exactly how I want to. But like, we know that's not it.
Yeah.
So like, we know that it's education, but like just learning a little bit about stress, about sleep, about nutrition, about exercise, about relationships. If you know a small little bit about those topics, that's going to go a lot further to you achieving any goal as opposed to a meal plan.
Yeah, exactly. People just want to be told what to do, but unfortunately it takes a bit of work on their side. Like when I said, going back to the lockdowns, I think the reason, for me anyway, the reason I think this one is the hardest, and I do think like lockdown 3 has been mentally the toughest for me. I had a conversation with a friend the other day, and I said I class myself as a mentally resilient person, but I do find myself actually having more bad days now than I did, you know, in previous lockdowns. And a bad day for me is like, you know, not in great form, so rather at you for no reason, rather at Cian or at Lisa for no reason, you know, and it's just been like not in the form to do stuff, and it's like getting through the day. And then there's days where it is great, but there's definitely more of those kind of days. Yeah. And for me, it's been, I didn't expect January to be, oh yeah, we get through January, happy days, and we'll be up and running, off we go. I didn't think that, but I also didn't believe it would be the long road that it does look like ahead. Like
the fact that it's either going to drag on for months and months and months, or just rolling lockdowns.
Yeah.
Because it is this emotional roller coaster of
huge,
like massive excitement and happiness when you get to open back up again and you get to see everyone's face and you get to see all the clients. There's this huge buzz, but then it's just this massive downward spiral. You have massive, to close again.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, we would like going into lockdown 2 and lockdown 3, our diaries, like everyone's like the gym was full.
Yeah.
People want to train. It's like, no, you have to close.
Yeah, but I remember for like lockdown 1, why that was so scary is that we didn't know what was going to happen after lockdown 1. Like, you know, were people going to come back to ATP, you know, and these were genuine fears that we had. Like, you know, will we be busy again? Like, you know, will there be capacity there? Do people want to still train in the gym?
Will personal training even be a thing anymore?
Yeah, like it really was very, very scary. Thankfully, because we got to open before the other 2 lockdowns, we saw that like it's you know, made it even more appealing to people now to train in the gym, like, you know, which that's why that fear of business isn't there like it was in 1, but it is kind of not knowing what capabilities will be there when we do reopen and when
knowing
that's
that we
going to
have
happen.
the type of model that will work for when COVID decides to go away.
whenever that may be, like, you know, because with it, like, it is that unknown factor that's just killing me. Like, you know, it's like next 6 weeks is long enough. Like, I'm just there going like how it flippantly came out. Like, you know, it's like
I'm looking at our planner inside. Like, you know,
oh yeah, what do we pick?
So
we picked a couple weeks ago. We picked March 22nd. I picked March 22nd. You picked March like 27th or whatever. And look, now we're looking at it going, Jesus, we don't know. Like, you know, hopefully we'll see. Like
some capacity maybe. Like
yeah. Something I will touch on is, you know, the loneliness factor.
Yeah.
And this is, again, we have partners, you know, we have dogs, you know, we keep our minds occupied and stuff. There are people out there who are living on their own, you know, do have friends and family, whatever, but they're living on their own, they're working from home on their own. We have to try and start making an extra effort with those people. So, like, to be honest, like, my dad lives on his own, like, you know, and it has been it took this lockdown for him to say to me, like, Ian, you know, find this hard. You know, it's tough enough, and which is crazy, even though the last 2 lockdowns. But this, because he said it to me now, I am making just this extra effort again, like, you know, to support him and to, you know, get onto him. but like it shouldn't have taken that from me.
Yeah, but a lot of people like won't like, you know, it's great that your dad said that, but like, you know, a lot of people won't say how they're feeling or the impact that it's having on them. I know from conversations I've had with people who are lonely, and it's not something I would have understood before, but I do now, where you might call someone and they might not answer, but I've heard feedback, like, you know, later on, that, like, you know, they still get a comfort in getting the phone call, even though they're not ready to take the call or don't want to take the call. So, like, if you have like friends or family out there who you might have maybe stopped calling or stopped making an effort with because they're not answering you, or because they're not taking your calls or responding to your messages, please do keep making that effort with them, because just from those comments, like, those people are still getting a great comfort in knowing that someone's thinking of them enough to call them, even though they might not want to answer the phone.
Yeah, no, definitely. And even like, if as well, making an assumption that people are doing all right. You know, I've been guilty of that with a couple of friends and stuff, like, you know, oh, they're doing grand. Then actually when I met one of them after lockdown 2, and he was like, no, I'm struggling hard. He goes, I'm stressed, like, work is causing massive stress. He goes, I'm just really finding it tough. And that was a conversation, took a couple of points to get that out of him, like, you know, but that's someone who I was like, oh no, he's grand, he's tipping away, he's working away full time, like, you know, so just don't make that assumption that somebody is doing okay either, like.
Yeah, lads are going to be the worst ever.
Worst, or so bad. Like, not me. I always say today, like, I'm like very emotional. I'll speak about how I'm feeling, but that's come from years of practice on how I'm feeling. Like, you know, most lads especially are very slow to talk about how they're feeling, and even Irish people are brutal. This wrecks my head. I'll ask someone, how you doing, how you feeling? You're a grand, yeah. You're not. Because when we get into it, when we actually have an open more conversation about different things, you eventually open up, and you tell me that you're not okay, or that you're struggling with this thing, or this is what's on your mind. But we have this automatic reaction to be like, yeah, I'm grand, yeah, so thanks. Like, you know, be okay with saying, oh no, I'm struggling, it's hard.
Yeah. And I suppose, like, you know, just on the loneliness thing as well, you know, if you are thinking of like someone is popping into your mind, like, you know, as we're talking about it, do make an effort, and do, you know, give that person a call or a text.
Yeah.
Because you don't know the impact that that's going to have on them.
100%. So, like, a big thing there is a book that I would recommend. I think you gave to me, and it's called Who Moved My Cheese.
Right. Yeah.
That would be a great book for anybody who hasn't read that yet, because it's constantly changing. Like, you know, the situation is forever changing, and it's horrendous, we know. But this book kind of opened my eyes. This is well before lockdowns, but like, opened my eyes to just, right, you either not do nothing, and, you know, when something changes, or you actually go with it. You make the moves, you do what you need to do, and adapt. And that's a great book.
For a children's book, because they're talking about 2 mice and their cheese.
Yeah, and it's not even a big read. Like, it's just something I would definitely recommend. And but there's another book that I'm reading at the moment. What's the exact name of it?
Lost Connections.
Yeah, Lost Connections. Like, honestly, I'm only halfway through it there. Cian's already read it, and a couple of clients have read it.
So I'd recommend it to a load of clients, yeah. And you know, it's definitely struck a note with, like, a lot of people talks about, like, you know, depression, anxiety, stress. And it was a client who actually gave it to me, but it's probably become, like, more so than any other book, the book that I recommend the most to people, especially at the moment.
Yeah, so just a couple of book recommendations there.
There's a lot of value to it, and like on like, you know, sadness and the depression as well, because, like, you know, a lot of people, you know, have that feeling of sadness, you know, and that's completely normal and to be expected at the moment. Like, depression, then it's kind of like if you ongoing, you know, loss of appetite, ongoing, you know, lack of sleep, ongoing having absolutely no motivation at all. That they then are the signs of depression. Just, you know, to be aware.
Recognise those, like, yeah.
Recognise them, yeah.
Yeah.
Whereas I think I don't know anyone who hasn't felt sadness.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and even like feeling sadness for periods of time, it's just recognizing, okay, is this getting out of control? You know, is this something that I can't get out of this spiral? Do I need to speak to my doctor? Do I need to speak to a friend or a counsellor? Like, you know, as I said, for the short counselling sessions I done, they were massively benefit to me when it came to dealing with my mother's passing and stuff, like, you know, and it's something I would have been very slow to go and do. And to be honest, all I found with the counsellor was that they just listened, and I ended up saying way more than I ever have before. It's just like that awkward silence that they do, like when you're speaking, and then they stop, you stop, and then but they don't say anything, and you're just like, I'll keep talking again, and you actually feel way better for it. So, like, you know, again, if you haven't done counselling before, maybe something like that might be good. And I know there's a lot of Zoom counselling and stuff can be done at the moment, which is even more accessible again.
I think, you know, you probably said more as well, like not knowing the person too well.
100%.
Like, you know what people have like told us, they mightn't tell their friends or family, but like,
Huge.
they'll tell us.
Yeah, there's no judgment. That's a big part of no judgment. Like when people talk to us inside here, there really isn't judgment, telling us their problems, like, you know, and same with counsellors, like they're not going to judge you, whereas you do have that fear of, oh, I say this to my friend, they'll think this of me, you know. So it's just, we really want people just to be inquisitive and ask questions about how you're feeling, why you're feeling, and, you know, and take action. And we talk about, like, you know, being in the right place to exercise and to lose weight. And if you're not, then that's okay, especially like say with the kids being at home, if that's there for you now. But the flip side of that, then we know if you do exercise regularly, you know, if you do improve your sleep and your stress or whatever, your mood 100% will increase.
And that's the other side of it, that, like, you know, again, if you do take those steps and do put in that effort, that is going to have a massive positive impact on how you feel.
Yeah, you mightn't feel like doing it at the beginning, but what you might find is that if you do it for like 2 sessions a week for a couple of weeks or whatever at home, you know, that might spiral you into this positive spiral effect, like, you know.
Yeah, it's like, you know, for anyone like listening who had to drag themselves to come to one of our classes for a PT session, and were in no form for it, you know, ask yourself, you know, did you ever regret going afterwards? And the answer is
always no. Yeah, no. So like, it is important that we just kind of wanted to let people know about how we're feeling, how we found the last few lockdowns, and we actually put a few questions up on our Instagram, and we'll go through some of those now. And so with the questions we put up, like, what are you struggling with? Okay, so here's what people put up. So just trying to get back into healthy habits is one. So what we'd say to that is, like, you know, again, don't even use the word habits, use habit, like singular. So like, if you look at one habit that you want to get back into, and just do that one, you know, let that be enough. It's constantly putting ourselves under pressure. That's what we tend to do, like, you know.
And also having these, like, you know, grand expectations as well. So we have like our readiness to change scale. So like from 1 to 10, where 1 is little to, or no chance of it happening,
Yeah.
and 10 is like, I'm definitely going to do it. So if you're trying to build or create a habit, and, you know, if that's like, you know, to get out and get exercising and to go for a walk, and you're asking yourself, like, you know, okay, I want to go walking for 45 minutes 3 times a week, and you're currently doing nothing, the chances of that happening are little to none, so it's probably 1 or 2.
Yeah.
Whereas like, if it's, you know, get out once a week for 10 to 15 minutes, it's probably 10, like, you can probably find the time and motivation to do it once.
That's the approach to take, like, you know, it really is.
And build on that.
Yeah, instead of, because then you write down 3 and you do it once and you feel like a failure. You write down once for 10 minutes, you do that, tick, done.
That is a bonus.
Yeah.
You can deploy that to anything: bedtime, water intake, cooking your fresh meals.
As mad as it sounds, set the bar low, and then jump over the bar.
Especially at the moment.
Yeah, 100%.
You feel better for achieving that, and then you can start accumulating, you know, habit stacking. So start accumulating those habits over the weeks and months.
Yeah. So not having things planned to work towards and look forward to.
So is that in terms of like holidays,
Yeah.
and events and things like that?
Yeah.
Okay, so, you know, I suppose, whilst that's very understandable, you know, sometimes those goals can be a little bit superficial, because if you're only just trying to lose weight for that holiday,
Yeah.
or only just trying to fit into a dress for that event, it's probably not enough to begin with.
What'll happen is like you get to that event, and then event is over, and it's 3 months to the next event. So it's like I can chill out. Yeah, exactly. Like, you know. So what I would say is, like, again, look at shorter term. Look at the next 2 weeks, 4 weeks, 6 weeks. Again, what can I do once or twice a week? Because again, it's the cumulative effect over time that's going to matter of everything else. Like, no matter what you do, it's the cumulative effect over time. It's not one thing for a couple of weeks. It's like, what can I do all of the time?
And you know what, they're probably looking at is, dropping a few pounds or dropping a few dress sizes, as opposed to a lifestyle change.
Yeah. So getting motivated to even move, not just exercise. So just to move.
Yeah. So again, setting that bar low. Can you
10 minutes a day.
get out for 5 minutes? If you're not even in the mood to go outside, can you get up and walk around your house? For 3 or 4 minutes.
Like what goes in time, what goes in tune with the readiness to change scale is make a couple of things, I call them non-negotiables. What are your non-negotiables that you will do every week? Like that's it. There's no excuses, there's no nothing. That could be like, I'm going to walk outside for 5 minutes. Again, lower the bar. Like, start lower. When you say it's just 5 minutes, that 5 minutes every single day, 365 days a year, is better than doing none. And that's honestly it. So like, stop thinking it has to be this 30, 45 minute, 1 hour long walk or run or whatever.
Especially if your motivation is rock bottom at the moment. I mean, motivation is a roller coaster. It comes and it goes. So if you don't have motivation at the moment, just do something small, and by successfully doing that one small thing, that will give you the motivation and the drive to do more.
Yeah. Snacking, it's so hard to control it. It really is. Snacking is one of the hardest issues that we see consistently with clients. Like, when it comes to snacking, the first thing I always go to is I look at your main meals. Yeah. I'm like, are your main meals substantial enough that the snacking cravings aren't that strong? Like, usually what happens is we're eating like paupers when it comes to our good, nutritious breakfast, lunches and dinners. And that leads us to get really hungry, and then the snacks are like, oh my God, I'm going to snack, and the chocolate's there. And the thing about working from home, had loads of clients, the biscuits are in the cupboard. It was in the office, you might have to go to the tea room or whatever. The biscuits are there. So one thing is like, reducing what's in the house. If you find yourself binging on chocolate and biscuits and potatoes, buy less. Buy a healthier option, a lesser calorie option. Like, that's one area.
With clients, it was a bit of a shock at the start, but it's just become normal now, where we might look at someone's lunch and assess that, and it might be 300 calories.
Yeah.
And then their afternoon snack is 800 calories of chocolate.
Yeah.
And again, that's going back to not having the nutritionally dense food there throughout the day, and at lunchtime, that's satisfying you for later on in the day, so that you're not hitting those energy slumps and looking for all that sugar.
Yeah. So the next one, we'll answer the questions here, and then we'll answer them ourselves each individually. So it's, what has been the hardest thing for you since COVID? So we have dealing with a heavy workload and still trying to keep up healthy habits. So again, work-life balance, we said, has shifted. It's been very different for both people. So some people have created a better work-life balance. I feel I have, but other people then have gone the other way, have been engulfed in work because they're at home on the laptop and stuff, and it's about prioritising.
Even harder then if you've kids.
Yeah.
So you're trying to entertain and teach the kids at the moment. The emails are like non-stop coming in, you're working through lunch, you're not clocking off at 5 or 6 o'clock or whenever you normally would. Again, that's going to cause like massive stress.
Yeah, so it is just being kind of these healthy habits. Again, it's like, healthy habit. Like, what one thing, your healthy habit could be, okay, I'm going to clock off at this time regardless, twice a week. You know what I mean? That, again, start there could be an option. Postponing our wedding, yeah, it's been brutal. I can definitely relate. So we were supposed to get married in May 2020, and we pushed it to this May, so 28th of May this year, 2021. And now we've actually pushed it again to March 18th next year, 2022.
20 months.
It's an absolute kick in the balls, sorry for my language, but like, you know, it really is like mentally tough. Like that's been one of the toughest for me, and I know for Lisa and for loads of people out there. And there's different reasons why people are still getting married, you know, regardless, and there's like the reason we've reasons why we pushed ours out. But that's been very, very tough. And all I can say there is, like, you know, it's down to the individual. It's kind of what the wedding you want. The wedding that you want is what's going to determine when you get married. But it is very tough, and the day itself, I know when the day comes, I remember last year, and we'll have another one this year, the day itself, when it comes, it's brutal when it passes, you know, when that day, because you're like, oh, we should be getting married, we should be having this, and that's quite tough to take. But look, it is a hard one, and we'll just say, like, you know, you will get married. And an email from a client of ours there to one of my weekly emails was really nice, and a big thing she said was like, Ian, take the positives, I know it's really hard, but you and Lisa still want to marry each other, and that's what matters. And that's important, because lockdown can be very testing on a lot of relationships. So worrying about parents and keeping them safe, and, you know, not seeing my parents, sister, niece and family, like that's been the toughest for some people.
Yeah, I mean, if you're, you know, used to seeing those people, those family members on a daily, weekly basis, and that's now taken away, that's kind of very difficult, you know, for people like myself there. Like my mom, who like had a lot of like surgeries and operations last year, and yeah, you can't see them, like.
It's nuts. Yeah. Like it's crackers to think, like, you know, someone could be quite sick and you're actually a danger by going and seeing them, like, you know what I mean? As in, like, that's the scary thing about.
You're putting that person at risk.
Yeah, and again, it's like, you know, I've been to a funeral over since COVID, like, you know, and it's brutal. Like, it's absolutely brutal, and we've no doubt people going through it. You know, it's so shit, but you know, and it's thing. There's no advice there. It's just like it is shit. Like, and we've all been there, but it's just hoping that we do get past these next couple of months and we get back to. I can't wait to get and give someone a hug. And I think people will be slow to handshake and hug again, like, you know. And I think it will be a while before that actually is a thing. Like,
will be a level of weirdness.
Yeah, I think a lot of kids are going to have to relearn how to socially interact and stuff, like, you know. Physically seeing other people again, like, you know, that's a big thing. Yes, a call is great, and we encourage that. But if you can get out for a walk with somebody, you know, if you're within the 5k of somebody and you can meet them outside for a walk, like that's amazing if you can do that. So, like, we'd recommend definitely doing that. Dealing with stress, exercising and eating healthy, but I can't control the emotional stress. Any tips? So when it comes to emotional stress, it really is, again, I hate to repeat myself, but, like, you know, asking yourself questions as to, you know, what's causing my stress, why am I feeling this way, and getting to that root cause. When it comes to dealing with emotional stress, journaling really works wonders for most people. You know, it's writing down what's in your head. When something's in your head, it's 20 times worse. You're creating scenarios and narratives in your head by writing down a piece of paper. I've often done it and I read back and I'm like, Jesus, I'm crazy. You know, but like, you read it and you go, okay, I can deal with that. That's in front of me there. But up here in your head, there's loads of different things going on. So I'd recommend writing things down.
Things will spiral in your head.
Massive.
Whether you want them to or not.
Yeah. And, like, again, deep breathing, you don't have to be big. Like, people, when they hear meditation, they're like, oh, not meditation, no, it's weird. It's like deep breathing, it's what it is. And all it's doing is trying to stop what I was saying, what's in your head, these thoughts, these train of thoughts running off, and it brings you back to your breathing, your present moment. And being in that present moment is what can really calm stress. So if you're feeling emotional stress, which is causing you to, say, emotionally eat, it's about becoming more mindful and practicing. I said mindfulness needs to be practiced. It's something I was really bad at for a long time, and over the last 4 or 5 years I've gotten good at because I practice it most days for 5 or 10 minutes or whatever. But, like, it's the same as training in the gym. Like, you have to practice it. So give it a go, and don't be judgmental of yourself if you're struggling with it. Like, give yourself a chance to improve by training each day with it. Like.
I think people, like, just don't give it a chance. They might try it once.
Yeah, it's not for me.
No, it's not for me.
Yeah. So staying in a positive mindset every day, that's impossible. But, like, that's like 100%. That is the hardest thing, because you shouldn't be in a positive. If you're on a positive mindset every day, I don't know where you're living or what you're doing.
Not fully connected to what's
yeah,
going on.
it's be okay with not being in that positive mindset every day. But it's also recognizing when you're not in that positive mindset, being okay, today it's a shit day, not feeling great, but it's not going to be forever. I'm not going to feel this way forever. I said emotions are like the Irish weather, changeable, unpredictable, like, you know what I mean? So they will come and go. So accept, I'm not in a positive mindset today. That's okay. Instead of being annoyed at yourself for not being able to be in that positive mindset. We're definitely not in positive mindsets every day.
And like, you know, it's okay to have days where you're down. It's okay to have like multiple days where you're down, but like, you know, just try not to let that spiral into an ongoing thing where you're constantly in that state.
Yeah, and just keeping an eye, as you said, for those other effects that may come if it is a longer term thing that you're there, like, you know, just being aware of those things, and again, like, you know, looking out for friends. If you feel there's a friend that kind of is showing those signs, you know, maybe have a chat with them.
Yeah, people who might have, like, you know, gotten very quiet or, you know, not active in your, like, you know, social groups on WhatsApp or whatever, you know, just maybe give them a call. You know.
Yeah. So I suppose what's been the hardest thing for me the last year, I use the word, and like I feel like I'm being kicked in the privates a lot. Every few weeks is how it feels. It's quite painful. So the hardest thing for me has been the uncertainty. It has been, I'm a huge, like, I like to know what's happening. Here's the plan. Here's what I'm working towards. That vision that gives me massive drive. But like, as I said, for me, it's been business being closed for 9 out of 12 months. Wedding being postponed twice. Like, you know, I'm a huge person who likes to interact with people, you know, hugs and high fives, and not being able to do that, not being able to socially interact with people, that's been really challenging for me. The hardest part, I think, definitely has been just not being able to go, not being able to do what I want to do, and it feels like the year has been paused. And I recognise that, like, you know, it's just a complete year of my life has been paused. Not that we didn't achieve anything or get lots done or whatever, but it just feels like a pause, and that pause for me has been quite shit. And that's been the hardest part for me. For you?
It took me until like lockdown 2 to realise it, but I said, like, a massive dependence on, like, you know, interacting with like a lot of people, like, you know, on a social level. I just like love the buzz of being in here, flat out, like, you know, PTing clients, classes. You know, you go from interacting with, you know, 30, 40, 50 people a day, to and that for me has definitely been the hardest part. Just the buzz of, like, you know, people, you know, everyone's different. Everyone has, like, you know, different story. So yeah, it's been really hard to, like, not. I don't know, you can, like, talk to people on the phone, but it's just not the same.
Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah, no, it has been challenging. So we're almost there. So it's a couple of things there. Is overcoming. Someone would ask, like, can we talk about, like, overcoming your own personal negative thoughts? This comes back to your relationship with yourself. I said the conversation you're having with yourself, and every time you have this negative thought about yourself, of I'm not good enough, I'm worthless, I'm not able to achieve this, I'm not able to do this. It's like, stop yourself and ask yourself, okay, my best friend is in front of me saying these things to herself. What would you say? And that's how you need to answer yourself, because you're your own worst critic, but you can become your own biggest supporter. You can be like, fuck me, I got this, I'm a badass, I'm going to do it. And like, if it's something that, like, these negative thoughts that you have of yourself have come from somewhere, you know, and it's about recognizing where they have come from, but challenging them. Again, this comes back to the it just is or I just am kind of mentality. It's like, no, okay, hold on, where is this coming from? Why am I speaking to myself that way? And figure that out and challenge the thoughts of, like, no, that's not correct.
Yeah, that's like good advice, like, especially for anyone who is, like, you know, having those kind of thoughts about themselves.
Yeah. Any tips on meditation or relaxation to help lock down stress? So look, I said, when it comes to meditation, it isn't for everybody. Some people like it, but what, and this is this morning, thinking about this question, I was playing with Chance in the kitchen, and what I realised is that what I was doing there was meditation. And this is an important point to get across. So people think meditation is sitting down, legs crossed, close your eyes, breathing, which it is. That's part of meditation. But the sole goal for meditation is to be present in the moment. That's what you're trying to achieve. By sitting down, closing your eyes and breathing, you're trying to get your mind to focus on your breathing, which is happening right now, so you can't focus on anything else. And that's literally what meditation is. When I was rubbing Chance this morning, messing and playing with him, I was right there. My thoughts were nowhere else. I was just having fun, being in that moment. And that's meditation. So what I'd say to people is like, find ways to do your meditation. If it's not sitting down breathing, then it can be, what are you doing when you're right there in the moment? If that's playing with your kids, if it's doing, for me, again, for me, a big one is golf. I miss golf, but like golf for me was I had to be in this moment, focusing on the shot here right now, can't think of anything else. That's why I love golf. My mind is completely relaxed. I'm not thinking about past or present. For you, I know for a fact, you driving your car, he'll have the radio turned off, listen to his loud exhaust, which he loves. So other people don't get it, people don't get golf or whatever, but that for you is meditative. Like.
When you take that, mentality towards it, like everyone can find something.
Yeah.
So, and like everyone can find like multiple ways of relaxing and meditating. Because like, yes, there's going for a spin in the car, but like even like something like playing with Lego, where it's like literally thinking about like nothing else in it. Like,
you have to be in that moment,
yeah,
like, yeah.
Exactly. Or playing with dogs when like you get home and like all they want to do is like lick your face or something.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. Like, and it is about just being that moment. Same for me. I said I found writing for me, like doing my weekly emails, has been a massive, like, that's like counselling for me. Even though people are benefiting from the emails, it's almost like me just putting my thoughts on typing out my thoughts, and that again is meditative. So when you think meditation, I want you to think, yes, try breathing. Taking deep breaths, closing your eyes, counting your breaths is a really good one. Box breathing is another really good one I use for going to sleep, which is literally breathing in for 4, holding for 4, breathe out for 4, hold for 4. I repeat that before I go to bed, and I tend to fall asleep quite quickly. So that is an actual kind of meditation. But as I said, meditative processes can be whatever's keeping you in the present moment. So next time you find yourself right in that present moment, not thinking ahead or back, there you go.
There's an app that we both use as well, Calm.
Very good, yeah.
Has a load of beginner stuff on it.
Yeah.
And Netflix are actually after releasing a series now as well.
On how to meditate. Yeah. So again, it's like everything else. It's like if you don't practice it, if you don't give it a go. Think of the first time you were in the gym, the first time you done anything. You were bad at it. We're all bad at it. It's the same as meditation. You're going to be bad at it at the start. Don't think it's not for you. Most people get caught up thinking when they're thinking of something else during the meditation that they effect it up and it's over. That's literally what meditation is. My mind wanders loads and it's just about coming back to the breathing, so I hope that helps. One last one here before we move on to some positives. So how do you stay positive and still can focus on diet and exercise? We don't. Definitely not. We had this discussion, we were like, it's very, again, a perception thing. So you see us on social media, even though we're recording the podcast here and stuff, we're coming across as positive. A positive mindset is not a constant state. It's like when we're recording our TikToks, we have great crack. Like we really do. There was one day, I think the other day that we were like, we were kind of allergic, so we actually stopped recording. But almost every other time we have great crack and we think we're hilarious. But they are great fun, and again, it's that escapism. It gives us like the creative brain is working, and we love doing them, and it's great crack. But there's always an important message with most of the TikToks as well. But we're not always positive. Like we have really, really bad days. Like we've a lot of shit going on. Like something I've realised over the last year is that everybody is like, life is tough, like brutally tough. And I had this conversation with Lisa about it's up for debate. Like, but I was like, at what point do you start teaching kids and teenagers that sorry, no, but it's actually brutal enough. You're trying to block them from the realisms of what life is. But if you do that too much, you're getting to a point where someone's 20 odd and they're realising how brutal life is, trying to fend for themselves, between working and trying to get a mortgage and doing all these other things. Like that can spiral people into bad places, like.
I think it's on social media that people might get that perception, whether it's us or like anyone else they're following on Instagram or Facebook, whatever, and no one's happy all of the time.
No. Yeah, and when it comes to our food and our diet, like I know, like let's be honest, you are pretty good when it comes to your food and you're doing, but you still enjoy a weekend and stuff, whatever. But like I can be. Everyone knows I'm a chocoholic. Like I find it very hard not to eat chocolate. Like I'm not perfect with my food, and we had this conversation the other day. Like I'm very well aware I'm in good shape. Like I'm not saying I'm not, But I was taking key and I was like, geez, I wouldn't mind dropping some body fat, you know, just to get a bit leaner. But I also said the same thing to him. I was like, I'm not in a position to do that right now. I'm not in the right space to do that, to really knuckle down, not eat the chocolate, like, you know, clean up my diet. Mentally, I'm not there. So me trying to do it when I'm mentally not there is setting myself up for failure.
People would, in general, be a lot happier if they realise that about their own situation. They might look at themselves, not be happy with how they look, but then not realise they're not willing to do what it takes to, you know, make a change. They're not willing to make those changes to their life.
It's when you say, oh, I'm going to drop body fat, I'm going to lose weight, but like you're just not mentally in a space to do it, you are kind of setting yourself up to fail, like, you know. So just make sure when you are ready, go hammer and tongue at it. Like, we'll be there for you when you do, but just like we're definitely not positive all the time. We're definitely not like healthy and, you know, eat perfectly all the time. It is a constant battle for me to not eat all the chocolate.
And that's even with training and nutrition ingrained in our lifestyle.
Yeah, and that's a big thing. Yeah. Like, it is our normal, it's our kind of normal, and it's still challenging, like, you know, so we've no doubt it is hard. So, long podcast. So we're going to finish on positives, because there has to be some. So I'm going to go through positives here for people, and I asked the question of, you know, have there been any positives for you? And you listen to this podcast, I do hope you answer some of the questions that we've asked here yourself, and especially with the positives. So some of the positives here are hours are more flexible, I suppose, and not travelling on cold winter mornings. Nice positive, you know, working from home. So like, working from home can be brutal, but there can be some positives to it. Long walks with the kids and our new puppy, excellent stuff. So again, more time with the kids, getting out for walks. You know, you have a new puppy, we all know how hard that is, but it's great. Emphasise the importance of work-life balance. That was a big one for me, I think. You know, I was definitely going 1 million miles an hour in my own head, and, you know, it was an abrupt stop, but it's helped, definitely.
I think even when we get back to some sort of normal, hopefully in the not too distant future, we will be very conscious to not go back to
100 miles an hour. And I said this to Cian, like, you know, what I do hope doesn't happen is that we are very good at forgetting, like, you know, so in a year or two's time everything is just as it was, going 100 miles an hour, like, you know. Hopefully that isn't the case. Realise my excessive frivolous spending and saved for a mortgage in 11 months. Amazing, like, well done. That's savage, but that just shows again, like, you know, that lifestyle that we live on, that weekend lifestyle, great crack and all, but, you know, when you knuckle down, when you know, something becomes more important. This is exact prime example. The house becomes more important than other things, than spending money on other things. You will do whatever it takes by not spending the money.
And you can apply that rule to everything.
Everything.
When weight loss becomes more important, you will do what it takes.
Your TikToks. So thank you very much. That's been a positive for them. We're very happy. It is generally just to give people a bit of a laugh. But I said, if you do read the TikToks, there's actually a bit of a message there. Yeah, we get great crack out of them.
For anyone who actually does read the message.
Yeah, there's always a message there. Able to exercise more because the online classes are so flexible with 24 hours to do it. So that's great. As I said, that is an option there for people. Moved in with your boyfriend is a COVID positive. That's fantastic. Well done. Made me take life at a slower pace. And that's been a common theme as well. So that's some positives from people in regards COVID. For me, I suppose positives I will take from COVID have been, I got Chance, my dog, best thing ever, like, amazing. Like, again, was that a bit of escapism, like, 100%. It definitely took my mind off things. No, and I think, like, you know, being able to be there during lockdown for him and stuff like, and train him up has been great. Look, positives, to be honest, for me definitely have been, like, you know, recognising that I really was going, like, balls to the wall, like, my head was just racing all the time. Okay, we need to be busier. What's next? Let's move to the next thing. Let's get going. I couldn't enjoy what was happening, and I do hope I take that with me moving forward. That yes, I know I need to work hard, and I want to, there's a vision there to create and be bigger. But it's like, you know, for me, I've recognised that all success comes with some sort of cost, you know, and it's like, are you willing to, for that cost, for that success? So for me, like, you know, if I wanted to have 2 or 3 gyms or whatever, it's like, okay, that comes at a cost of probably never being at home, you know, which is your life and your family or whatever. It's like, are you willing to give that up? It's like, no. Okay, so that you rule that out, like, you know. So it's, for me, I was able to figure out and, you know, realise that, like, you know, what I have is enough, and that was a big thing. Which, to be honest, I know it sounds mad, that really didn't feel like that was the case. It was like, when I get this thing now, I'll be happy. When I get to there, I'll be happy. Whereas now I've realised I have enough in my life right now to be happy. Doesn't mean I don't want more, doesn't mean I don't want to achieve more, but when I look around right now, I'm like, fuck me, I have a good life, you know. And that's been in the lockdown for the last year, like, you know. And that's the big positive for me. I don't think that would have happened if I was still going 100 miles now.
No, yeah. I actually think there's like a lot of positives that can be taken from it. Like for the first time, like 10 or 11 years in this industry now, and I've like never had like a routine where I get up at a time in the morning and go to bed. I think because like our routines are always just like all over the place with early starts and that. So that's a huge one. We get to spend more time at home with Emma. She's working from home. She's been fantastic throughout the whole thing. Actually get to have like 2 meals a day, breakfast and dinner every day with her, which has like never happened before. You might have like one meal together a day, 3 or 4 days a week. But it's like literally 7 days a week. At home spending more time at home with her. That's been amazing, and the dogs as well. So like we got Charlie a month before COVID hit.
So COVID baby is now a COVID dog.
Yeah, COVID pup, like, yeah. So he's like never not known COVID, but like, you know, he's grown up with the two of us in the house there now, like, so he's not going to know what's going on. Things go back to normal. Lucky to have big garden, so like that's my new hobby now. Gardening, building steps.
Flat out building steps, like
all sorts. So yeah, and like when looking into the future with ATP, we now have an online presence and an online product, so that when we do get to open it up again, we're really hitting the ground running.
Yeah, like a big thing for us is recognising, you know, ATP as it is in Donnybrook, like we love it here. It's going to be this for a long time. But what we wanted to create was a safe place for people to go to be educated on what they need to do to achieve health, to achieve, you know, physical and mental health and improve their own physical health without any BS or bullshit. And that's, as I said, it was initially called the Blueprint. It's the 28th grade, and 28th grade is going to evolve to be much more as well. But it is more, yes, people are going to sign up for the exercise and, you know, for the nutrition, but we know ourselves, people that do it and watch all the videos, it's way more than that. So like, that's been a big positive for us as well, like, you know, and it is great. I think like the idea behind the podcast, we ended up talking about loads of different things which we didn't, which is standard for us. But we do hope that you take something from the podcast, that you know that we do have bad days, we do struggle, but there also will be there's good days, and it is a roller coaster. I literally said to you, you know, you'll be up on a roller coaster one day, but enjoy that so much. Like we kind of don't do that. It's like enjoy when you're at the top of the roller coaster. Enjoy that, recognise you're there, recognise things are good right now. I feel good right now. If it's for 30 minutes, a half a day or a week, whatever, enjoy it. Expect it to drop. There's going to be a day which you're at the bottom and things are absolutely brutal and tough, but recognise when you're there that you won't stay there. You know, you won't stay there. You never feel that way every single second of the day.
If you're chasing this, like, you know, constant, you know, positivity, that doesn't exist, like, you know, it's not there at the moment, like, you know, enjoy it and have it. But like also just like, you know, even if it's like what we talked about, just doing one small little thing for yourself.
Yeah.
Just making 5-10 minutes, if that's all you have in the week, you know, just like ask yourself, you said, like, what one small thing can I do for myself?
Yeah.
It's going to make me feel better.
So we'll finish, and there's this woman that trains with us, and she always replies to my emails and tells me on the phone that my emails are great, and she's so lovely, and she always says to me, Ian, this too shall pass. And it will, as brutal as it's been, but it will. We do hope you enjoyed the podcast. If you did, please share it, tell people about it. If you feel it'll help anybody at all, please send it to them. Just make sure to tag ATP when you are sharing it. Thanks a million, guys.